I never thought I'd be the kind of person telling an office revenge story. Honestly, I was always the keep your head down, do your work, go home type. No drama, no office politics. Just clock in, do my job properly, and leave. That was the plan, at least. I was 27 when I joined Northway Solutions. Mid-sized company, open office layout, glass meeting rooms, motivational posters that said things like teamwork makes the dream work. You know the type. I landed the role of operations analyst after 6 months of job hunting, and at the time, it felt like I'd finally made it. My desk was in the far corner, near the printer that jammed every other day. Not a great spot, but I didn't complain. I liked being out of the way. People left you alone there. From day one, I noticed how everything in that office ran on unspoken rules, who you could joke with, who you shouldn't disagree with in meetings, who got credit and who didn't. I kept my mouth shut and watched. My manager was Ryan. Ryan was the kind of guy who smiled a lot but never with his eyes. Early 30s, always dressed sharp, always talking about big picture thinking. In meetings, he loved phrases like, "Let's circle back," and "I'll take this offline." Everyone nodded when he spoke, even when he said nothing at all. The first week, he leaned over my desk and said, "Just absorb everything for now. No pressure." I believed him. The work itself wasn't hard, but it was detailed. Reports, tracking workflows, fixing small process issues that nobody else wanted to deal with. I was good at it. Not loud good, just quietly consistent. I stayed late more than once. Not because anyone asked me to, but because I didn't want to mess up. When you're new, you feel like every mistake might be your last. People started sending me their work just to check. Then more, then regularly. Ryan noticed. One afternoon, during a team meeting, he pulled up a report on the screen, a report I'd spent 3 late nights fixing. "This is the kind of initiative we need," he said, pointing at the slide. "Great example of ownership." He didn't say my name. I waited, thinking maybe he'd add it at the end. He didn't. Everyone clapped lightly, the way people do in offices. I felt that strange mix of pride and confusion. I told myself it didn't matter. The important thing was that my work was being used. That was my first mistake. Over the next few months, the pattern became clear. I'd do the heavy lifting. Ryan would present it. He'd get praised for leading his team well. I'd get more work. Still, I didn't say anything. I grew up being told that hard work speaks for itself, that if you stay patient, people notice. I believed that too. Then there was Melissa. Melissa sat 2 rows over, close enough that I could hear her typing, loud, aggressive typing, like she was mad at the keyboard. She'd been at the company for years and made sure everyone knew it. She was friendly in a surface-level way, but there was always something sharp underneath. When I first joined, she smiled and said, "Don't worry, Ryan loves fresh blood." I didn't know then that fresh blood wasn't a compliment. Melissa started asking questions about my work, casual at first. "How did you pull that data? Can you send me your template? What formula did you use there?" I shared. I didn't think twice. That's what teamwork was, right? A few weeks later, she presented a new efficiency tracker in a department meeting. It looked familiar. Same layout, same structure, even the same color choices. Ryan praised her, said she was really stepping up. I stared at my notebook the entire time. That was the moment something shifted. Not anger, not yet, just awareness. I started noticing other things too, emails where my name was quietly removed. Meetings I wasn't invited to, even when the topic was my project. Decisions being made without me, then handed to me to finalize. Once, I asked Ryan about it. I kept my tone light. "Hey, just checking, should I be included in those meetings since I'm handling that workflow?" He smiled, leaned back in his chair, and said, "You're doing great where you are. Let's not overcomplicate things." Overcomplicate things. That sentence stayed with me. Around that time, layoffs rumors started floating around. People whispered near the coffee machine. Managers suddenly talked a lot about performance metrics and value add. I watched how people behaved when they felt threatened, how quickly smiles disappeared, how fast coworkers stopped sharing information. That's when I realized something important. I wasn't invisible because I was quiet. I was invisible because it was convenient. And in an office like that, being invisible wasn't safe. Not at all. Once you notice you're being pushed into the background, you can't unsee it. I started paying closer attention. Not in an angry way, more like someone finally putting on glasses after years of blurry vision. Small things stood out. Too small to complain about, but too consistent to ignore. For example, Ryan stopped replying to my emails. Not completely, just enough to keep things vague. I'd send a clear question, "Do you want option A or option B for the rollout?" He'd respond 2 days later with, "Let's align on this soon." Soon never came. Then, during meetings, he'd casually say, "We decided to go with option A," like I'd been part of that decision. If something went wrong, he'd say, "We might need to refine the execution." Execution was code for me. Melissa, on the other hand, suddenly became very visible. She was in meetings all the time. She started using phrases I recognized, my phrases. Even the way she explained problems sounded like something I'd written in an email weeks earlier. At first, I wondered if I was being paranoid, so I tested it. I built a small process improvement for a reporting issue everyone complained about. Nothing flashy, just cleaner data flow, fewer errors. Instead of sharing it right away, I documented everything, timestamps, drafts, versions, and sent it directly to Ryan with a simple note. Draft for review. 2 weeks later, that exact solution appeared in a leadership presentation. Ryan's name was on the slide. Melissa was listed as support. I wasn't listed at all. No mention, no footnote, nothing. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling this weird mix of embarrassment and calm. Embarrassment because part of me still hoped someone would say, "Hey, wasn't that your work?" Calm because now I knew for sure. After the meeting, Ryan clapped me on the shoulder. "Good job keeping things running," he said. Keeping things running. That's when it hit me. I wasn't being groomed for growth. I was being positioned as the engine, the part that works quietly while other people take the credit. Around the same time, my workload doubled. Ryan framed it as trust. "I wouldn't give this to just anyone," he said. "It means I rely on you." What it actually meant was that I was doing the work of 2 people without the title or pay to match. Late nights became normal. My dinner was often whatever I could grab on the way home. I started dreaming about spreadsheets. Friends joked that I was married to my job. I laughed along, but something inside me felt tight all the time. Then came my mid-year review. Ryan smiled the entire time, complimented my work ethic, said I was dependable, used the word solid at least 5 times. Then he said, "I'd like to see you be more visible." I almost laughed. "I'm open to that," I said carefully. "What does that look like?" He paused, like he hadn't expected the question. "Speaking up more. Taking ownership." I looked at him and thought about the reports, the processes, the late nights. "I already am," I said, not confrontational, just honest. His smile didn't change, but something cooled behind it. "Let's not get defensive," he replied. "This is just feedback." That was the first time I realized feedback wasn't about improvement, it was about control. After that review, things got worse. Deadlines were suddenly misunderstood. Tasks I completed were marked as pending in status meetings. Melissa started correcting me in public, gently, with a smile, but always wrong. One afternoon, she leaned over and said quietly, "You should CC Ryan on things. He likes being in the loop." I stared at her. Ryan had been CC'd. Always. Then, out of nowhere, HR sent out an email announcing a new internal promotion track. A chance to apply for a senior role. The kind of role I'd been unofficially doing for months. My heart actually sped up reading it. I met every requirement. Experience. Performance. Results. This was my chance to stop being invisible. I told Ryan I wanted to apply. He nodded, polite as ever. "Of course," he said. "Just make sure your application really reflects your contributions." That night, I stayed late again. This time, not to fix something, but to pull every email, every document, every version history that showed what I'd actually done. For the first time since joining the company, I wasn't just working. I was collecting proof. And I had no idea yet how badly I was going to need it. I worked on that application like it was a court case. Every bullet point had evidence behind it. Dates, outcomes, metrics. I didn't exaggerate, didn't oversell. I just told the truth, clearly, calmly, and backed up with receipts. Part of me was still hopeful. I kept thinking, maybe this is where things turn around. Maybe once leadership sees the full picture, it'll be obvious. I submitted the application on a Friday evening and went home feeling lighter than I had in months. That feeling didn't last long. The following week, Ryan stopped being subtle. He scheduled a quick sync on my calendar with no agenda. When I walked into the meeting room, Melissa was already there, sitting beside him like she belonged. Ryan closed the glass door and said, "We just want to align expectations." That phrase again. Melissa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Ryan leaned forward. "I saw your application." "Okay," I said. He nodded slowly. "Some of the claims you made are ambitious." I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my voice steady. "Everything in there is documented," Melissa chimed in. "It just might come across as you taking credit for team efforts." Team efforts. The room felt smaller. "I credited the team where it applied," I said, "but I also listed the work I personally led." Ryan sighed like I was being difficult. "Perception matters. We don't want leadership thinking there's conflict within the team." That's when I understood what was happening. This wasn't feedback. This was a warning. I looked at Ryan and asked, "Are you saying I shouldn't apply?" He smiled again. That same careful smile. "I'm saying timing is important. Maybe next cycle would be better." Next cycle. The thing people say when they want you to go away quietly. I nodded, thanked them for their time, and walked back to my desk. My hands were shaking, but my face stayed neutral. Years of staying quiet had trained me well. What they didn't know was that I'd already forwarded my application and supporting documents to HR directly, just as the process required. It was out of their hands now. 2 days later, Melissa stopped asking me questions. Completely, no more quick help requests, no more messages asking for templates. At first, I thought she was just busy, then I noticed something else. She was struggling. Reports were coming back with errors. Deadlines slipped. Ryan looked tense in meetings, jumping in to answer questions Melissa couldn't. For the first time, the engine was missing a few parts. HR scheduled interviews for the promotion track. I was on the list. So was Melissa. Ryan wasn't. That alone told me something was off. During my interview, they asked detailed questions, not the fluffy kind. The kind that only someone who actually did the work could answer. How did you resolve that bottleneck? What risks did you consider? What would you change if you had more authority? I answered honestly. Sometimes I even said, "I don't know," and explained how I'd find out. They nodded. Took notes. When I left the room, my shirt was damp with sweat, but my head felt clear. Melissa's interview was after mine. I didn't hear much, but I saw her come out early. She avoided eye contact and walked straight to the restroom. That afternoon, Ryan called me into his office. This time, there was no smile. "I heard HR reached out to you directly," he said. "They followed the process," I replied. He stared at me for a long moment. "You need to understand how this affects the team." I almost laughed again, but I didn't. "What affects the team?" I said carefully. "Is work not being done correctly?" The silence between us was heavy. After that conversation, things turned cold. Ryan stopped assigning me meaningful work. I was left out of emails completely now, not just meetings. It felt like punishment or preparation. A week later, I got an unexpected calendar invite. Subject line, "Performance review follow-up from HR." My heart sank. In the meeting, HR sat across from me with a neutral expression. "We've received concerns about collaboration and communication," she said. I didn't interrupt. She continued, specifically, that you may not be aligning with management direction. I took a breath. Then I opened my folder. Emails, documents, version histories, timestamps. Clear trails showing how decisions were made, who did the work, and who presented it. I slid them across the table. "Before this goes further," I said, "I'd like you to see this." The HR rep went quiet as she started reading. Minutes passed. Finally, she looked up at me, eyebrows slightly raised. "This is very thorough," she said. I nodded. I thought clarity would help. That meeting ended very differently than it began. And for the first time since I joined the company, I felt like the balance was shifting. Not because I was loud, but because I was ready. After that HR meeting, the office felt different. Not loud different, quiet different. The kind where people stop mid-sentence when you walk by, or suddenly get very interested in their screens. Nobody said anything to me directly, but I could feel it. Something had been set in motion. HR didn't copy Ryan on emails anymore. That alone was telling. Instead, I started getting direct messages asking for clarification on past projects. Very specific questions. Things like who actually built what, who approved which changes, and why certain decisions were made the way they were. I answered everything calmly. No drama, no accusations, just facts. Meanwhile, Ryan looked like he hadn't slept. In meetings, he was more defensive. He talked faster, interrupted people, and over-explained things that didn't need explaining. Melissa stayed quiet now, barely speaking unless directly asked. When she did talk, she sounded unsure, like she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. One afternoon, I overheard 2 coworkers whispering near the break room. "Did you know he didn't actually build that tracker?" I thought she did. Apparently not. They stopped when they saw me. I didn't react. I poured my coffee and walked away. Letting people connect the dots on their own was way more powerful than correcting them. A few days later, HR scheduled a process review session. Mandatory for the whole team, that meeting was uncomfortable. They put a timeline on the screen. A full breakdown of the past year's major projects, who initiated them, who built them, who presented them. My name came up a lot, Ryan's not so much. Nobody said anything outright, but the room was heavy with realization. You could almost hear people rethinking past praise, past promotions, past assumptions. Melissa stared at the table. Ryan kept adjusting his watch. After the meeting, he pulled me aside. "You blindsided me," he said, voice low. I met his eyes. "I followed the process." "That's not how this works," he snapped. Then, catching himself, he softened his tone. "You should have come to me first." I thought about all the times I had. "I did," I said. "Many times." He had no response to that. Later that week, HR announced the promotion results. I got it. Senior Operations Analyst. Official title, official authority, official recognition. Melissa didn't. She called in sick the next day. Ryan congratulated me in an email that felt like it was written through clenched teeth. Lots of "happy for you" and "well-deserved" without actually sounding like either. But the real shift came after. With my new role, I was asked to review workflows, including ones Ryan was responsible for. Suddenly, I could see everything. Missing documentation, decisions made without data, shortcuts that only worked because someone else fixed the fallout later. Me, I didn't expose anything dramatically. I didn't need to. I just asked questions in meetings. "Can you walk us through the rationale here? Where was this signed off? What's the contingency plan if this fails?" The answers were weak. Leadership noticed. Ryan started losing ground. Slowly, quietly, the way office power usually slips away. He wasn't invited to certain meetings anymore. Decisions were made without him. His big picture talk stopped impressing anyone. Melissa eventually came back, but she kept her distance. She didn't ask me for help again. One evening, as I was packing up, she stopped by my desk. "I didn't know it would go this far," she said, not meeting my eyes. I shrugged. "I just did my job." She nodded and walked away. A month later, Ryan resigned. The email said he was pursuing other opportunities. Nobody asked questions. On his last day, he shook my hand and said, "You're smart. Just be careful." I smiled politely. What I didn't say was this: I had been careful the entire time. Careful enough to survive being invisible. Careful enough to win without yelling. Careful enough to let the truth do the talking. And I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. After Ryan left, people expected some big victory moment from me, a speech, a change in personality, maybe even a little arrogance. None of that happened. The truth is, revenge at work doesn't look like movies. There's no dramatic confrontation, no clapping hallway, no slow-motion walk to the elevator. It's quieter. It's watching the system finally treat you the way it should have from the beginning. With my new role, my days changed. Fewer late nights, more meetings where my opinion actually mattered. People started looping me in early instead of dumping problems on me at the last minute. And the funniest part, they'd say things like, "You always explain this so clearly," as if I hadn't been doing that all along. Melissa transferred to a different team a few months later. We passed each other once near the elevators. She gave me a small nod. No anger, no friendliness, just acceptance. I nodded back. Northway didn't suddenly become a perfect workplace. Offices never do. There were still politics, still egos, still people trying to look better than they actually were. But I wasn't invisible anymore. One afternoon, HR asked me to mentor a new hire. A quiet guy, first real corporate job, desk near the printer, same spot I'd started in. He looked nervous, the way I must have looked years earlier. During our first check-in, he asked, "Any advice?" I thought for a moment. "Do your work well," I said. "Document everything. And don't assume silence will protect you." He laughed nervously, not fully understanding yet. That was okay. Some lessons only make sense after you've lived them. Looking back, I realized the revenge wasn't about Ryan losing his job or Melissa losing her chance. That was just the outcome. The real revenge was this: they built their success on my quiet effort, assuming I'd stay in that corner forever. They were wrong. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't spread rumors. I didn't play dirty. I just stopped being invisible. And in an office like that, that's more than enough.